There comes a point in life when motivation is not enough. You watch others rise while you stay stuck in the same place, whispering to yourself, maybe I'm not good enough. But deep down, a quiet voice refuses to die. It says, you were meant for more. The problem is, belief doesn't come naturally. You have to force it. You have to build it like muscle, one rep, one decision, one defiance at a time. Believing in yourself is not about confidence. It is about survival. It is about waking up every morning and choosing not to give up when the world gives you every reason to. The truth is, no one is coming to convince you. No one is coming to save you. The person you are waiting for is you. This audiobook is not about motivation. It is about transformation. It will teach you how to silence doubt, destroy hesitation, and rebuild your inner strength from the ground up. Because once you learn how to force belief into your system, nothing and no one can take it away again. Stay with me until the end, because this is where your new life begins. Chapter 1. The moment you stop believing. There comes a moment in every person's life when something inside quietly breaks. You do not notice it right away. It happens after one too many failures, one too many rejections, one too many times of trying and falling short. At first, you tell yourself it is just a bad day. But deep down, something changes. A small voice that used to whisper, "You can do this," starts to fade. You stop believing in yourself, not because you are weak, but because you are tired. Belief does not disappear overnight. It erodes slowly through disappointment and comparison. You scroll through a world that seems to be moving faster than you. Everyone looks confident. Everyone seems to be winning. And the more you watch, the more invisible you feel. You start questioning your worth, your potential, and even your purpose. This is the quiet death of self-belief. But here is the truth. Everyone you admire has stood in that same darkness. Every great success began with a person who felt like giving up, but chose not to. Belief is not a light that burns forever. It is a fire that must be rekindled again and again. You are not broken because you lost faith. You are human. The real strength lies in rebuilding it, even when it feels impossible. When you stop believing, the world feels heavier. Every task becomes harder. Every goal feels distant. That is because belief is not just an emotion. It is energy. It is the invisible force that moves you forward when nothing else does. Without it, you hesitate. You shrink. You play small to avoid failure. And soon, you convince yourself that you were never meant for more. But what if this moment is not the end? What if this is the beginning of your awakening? Losing belief in yourself is painful, but it is also powerful. It strips you of illusion. It forces you to confront the truth of who you are and what you want. It is life's way of saying, now prove you mean it. This is where you begin again. Not as the person who had confidence once, but as the person who will rebuild it through discipline, courage, and resilience. You do not need to wait for belief to return. You must create it. You must fight for it. Because the moment you decide to do that, your transformation has already begun. Chapter 2. The lie you tell yourself. The most dangerous lie is not the one the world tells you. It is the one you whisper to yourself when no one is listening. It sounds like truth because it has been repeated for so long. You tell yourself you are not ready, not smart enough, not talented enough. You say it softly until you start to believe it, and then you stop trying altogether. This lie does not arrive overnight. It grows from disappointment. Each time you fail, you collect a piece of evidence to prove that you were never meant to succeed. Over time, that belief becomes a story, and the story becomes your identity. You stop seeing possibilities and start seeing limitations. You say things like, that is just how I am, or people like me never make it. The truth is, that is not who you are. It is who you became when you stopped questioning your own doubt. Most people never realize that belief and disbelief are both choices. You can choose to feed one or the other, but whichever you feed will grow stronger. The lie survives because it goes unchallenged. The moment you confront it, it begins to lose its power. Every time you say, maybe I can, the old narrative weakens. That is how belief begins again, not through perfection, but through resistance. You cannot build a new life on a false foundation. As long as you keep telling yourself the same story, you will keep living the same results. That is why forcing belief is not about pretending to be confident. It is about rewriting the script that plays in your mind every day. You must stop rehearsing failure in your imagination. You must stop predicting pain before it happens. Your thoughts are not harmless. They are blueprints. Every belief you repeat becomes the architecture of your reality. The first step toward belief is honesty. Be brutally honest about the words you use when you talk to yourself. Notice how quickly you dismiss your potential. Notice how easily you defend your limitations. Awareness is the beginning of change. Once you can see the lie, you no longer have to live inside it. So pause for a moment and ask yourself this question. What lie have I been telling myself that is keeping me small? Whatever the answer is, that is where your work begins. Because belief does not start with positive thinking. It starts with truth. And the truth is, you are capable of far more than the story you have been told. Chapter 3, When You Feel Left Behind. There is a unique kind of pain that comes from watching others move forward while you stand still. You see people your age, building careers, starting families, chasing dreams, and living the life you thought you would have by now. You smile for them, you congratulate them, but deep down, something in you aches. It feels like life left you behind and forgot to come back. It starts quietly. You tell yourself you're just taking longer, that your time will come. But as months turn into years, that reassurance begins to fade. The silence between your progress and your expectations grows louder. You start measuring your worth by other people's timelines, and without noticing, you begin to shrink. Every success you witness becomes a reminder of what you have not achieved. Every step someone else takes forward becomes proof that you are stuck, but you are not stuck. You are being shaped. The waiting, the frustration, the stillness, all of it is part of your preparation. Life does not delay progress out of cruelty. It delays it out of necessity. There are lessons you can only learn in stillness, strength you can only build in solitude, and patience you can only master through waiting. Belief becomes hardest when you feel forgotten. That is when the voice of doubt grows loudest. It tells you that you missed your chance, that everyone else is ahead, that there is no point in trying anymore. But this is the lie of comparison. The truth is, your story is not late. It is unfolding in silence. What you see in others is only their highlight reel, not their unseen struggle. You are comparing your behind the scenes to their final act, and it will always make you feel small. You must stop treating time like a competition. Success is not a race. It is a rhythm. Some people bloom early because their path demands it. Others take longer because their foundation is deeper. The tree that grows slowly grows strong enough to outlast the storm. Do not envy the speed of others when you are building endurance. When you feel left behind, focus on what is still within your control. You may not control the timing, but you control the effort. You control the mindset. You control how you show up when no one is watching. Every hour spent improving yourself when the world is silent counts. Every small act of growth compounds, until one day, everything you were waiting for meets the person you have become. Believing in yourself when nothing seems to be happening is the hardest kind of faith. It is not loud. It is quiet, steady, and relentless. It is choosing to keep moving when no one claps. It is showing up when the results do not show. It is trusting that all the invisible work is adding up, even if you cannot see it yet. Your time will come, not because someone will hand it to you, but because you refuse to give up while waiting. The world rewards those who keep building in silence. Every great story has a chapter where the hero feels forgotten. That is where character is built. That is where you become someone worthy of the success you seek. So when you feel left behind, do not beg to catch up. Build yourself so strong that when your moment arrives, you are ready to handle it. Your season is coming. And when it does, you will not just arrive, you will rise. Chapter 4, The Prison of Past Failures. Failure can become a home if you stay in it long enough. It begins as an event, but over time it becomes an identity. You start defining yourself by what went wrong instead of what could go right. Every disappointment builds another wall. Every rejection locks another door. And before you know it, you are living in a prison built from your own memories. The chains are not real, but they feel unbreakable because they are forged from emotion. You tell yourself you tried once and it did not work, so why try again? You replay moments from the past like old movies, watching every mistake in slow motion, analyzing every word, every decision, every missed chance. What you do not realize is that every time you relive the past, you reinforce it. You make the pain permanent by keeping it alive in your mind. The truth is, failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of it. Every person who has achieved greatness has failed more times than you can imagine. The difference is, they did not stay there. They used failure as a teacher, not a sentence. You cannot heal while holding on to the version of yourself who failed. You must release that version so you can become someone new. The hardest part about believing in yourself again is forgiving who you were when things went wrong. It is forgiving the version of you that did not know better, that made the wrong choice, that hesitated when it mattered most. You cannot punish yourself into growth. You can only understand yourself into change. The moment you start seeing failure as information instead of identity, you begin to break free. You are not your mistakes. You are what you learn from them. The person who failed in the past was operating from a different level of awareness. They were doing the best they could with what they knew at the time. Now you know more. Now you can do better. That is evolution. That is growth. When you live in the prison of past failures, you become afraid to take new risks. You fear repeating history, so you settle for safety. But safety is the slowest form of self-destruction. You cannot build confidence in comfort. You only build it by facing fear and realizing it cannot destroy you. The walls of your past will only collapse when you walk straight through them. Letting go of failure does not mean forgetting it. It means redefining it. It means taking the lesson and leaving the pain behind. It means accepting that some things had to fall apart to show you who you are meant to become. There are no wasted moments when you decide to learn from all of them. You cannot force yourself to believe in a future while still being loyal to your past. You must choose. You can either protect your old story or create a new one, but not both. Belief requires space, and space cannot exist where regret still lives. Release the guilt. Release the shame. They do not serve you. They only remind you of a version of yourself that no longer exists. Every time you take a step forward, that old voice will try to remind you of how you once failed. Let it talk. Then remind it that you are no longer the same person. You have rebuilt, you have learned, you have grown. The voice of your past only has power if you keep answering it. Silence it with action. You are not behind because you failed. You are behind only if you refuse to rise again. The difference between those who succeed and those who stay stuck is not luck, intelligence, or talent. It is the willingness to try again without carrying the weight of yesterday. The key to freedom is forgiveness, not for others, but for yourself. Forgive the missed opportunities, the wrong turns, the moments of weakness. Forgive the version of you that did not yet know how strong you truly are. Then look ahead. The door has always been open. The lock was never real. The only thing keeping you inside was your belief that you belonged there. Step out. The world is waiting. Chapter 5, Destroying the Victim Mindset. At some point, everyone has felt like life was unfair. You worked hard and got overlooked. You gave your best and still lost. You showed loyalty and got betrayed. It is easy to fall into the belief that the world is against you, that no matter what you do, something always goes wrong. And little by little, this belief becomes your identity. You stop trying to win because you start expecting to lose. You tell yourself you're just unlucky, or that the system is rigged, or that people like you never get a chance. This is the birth of the victim mindset, and if you do not destroy it, it will quietly destroy you. The victim mindset is seductive because it makes pain feel meaningful. It gives you someone to blame. It tells you that you are not responsible for your life, which feels comforting for a while. But that comfort comes with a price. It steals your power. It convinces you that your circumstances are permanent when they are only temporary. It keeps you small because it is easier to feel powerless than to take responsibility. You must understand that responsibility is not about guilt. It is about ownership. Taking responsibility does not mean everything that happened to you was your fault. It means you have the power to change what happens next. As long as you keep waiting for someone to save you, you remain a prisoner of your own story. But the moment you decide that you are responsible for your healing, your progress, and your success, you begin to take back control. The victim mindset feeds on comparison. You look at others who seem to have it easier and tell yourself that they got lucky. You convince yourself that they were born into privilege or given opportunities you never had. And maybe some of that is true. But what is also true is that comparison never built anyone's future. It only steals energy from the present moment. You cannot grow while staring at someone else's path. You can only grow by mastering your own. Belief cannot coexist with self-pity. You cannot believe in your potential while also believing the world owes you something. The two ideas cancel each other out. If you want to rebuild your confidence, you must stop seeing yourself as a victim and start seeing yourself as a creator. Every day you have two choices, to complain or to create. One keeps you in the same place. The other opens doors you never thought existed. Destroying the victim mindset starts with awareness. Listen to your language. Notice how often you say things like, I can't, I never, or it's not fair. These words reinforce helplessness. Replace them with questions that move you forward. Ask, what can I do right now to change this? Or what lesson is this moment trying to teach me? The quality of your questions determines the quality of your mindset. The truth is, life will never be perfectly fair. Some people will start ahead. Some will have fewer obstacles. But fairness is not the goal, growth is. And growth happens when you stop focusing on what you cannot control and pour everything into what you can. Your energy is your greatest currency. Spend it on progress, not pity. You cannot force belief while clinging to blame. The two cannot exist in the same heart. Every time you point the finger, you give away a piece of your strength. Stop explaining why you cannot win and start preparing for when you do. The moment you stop needing the world to understand your pain, you become unstoppable. You may not control everything that happens, but you control how you respond. And that response, repeated daily, becomes the foundation of belief. No one rises by accident. People rise because they decide to stop living as victims and start living as creators. You are not broken. You are becoming aware. Awareness is the first step toward freedom. The truth is, life does not owe you anything, but it will give you everything if you decide to take responsibility for it. The moment you stop waiting for rescue, you start building your own rescue plan. The day you stop blaming, you start winning. And when that happens, belief stops being something you force. It becomes something you live. Chapter 6, The Discipline of Belief. Belief is not a feeling that arrives on its own. It is a discipline. It is something you train, something you practice, something you choose, even when everything around you gives you a reason not to. The biggest misunderstanding about belief is that it should feel natural, that one day you will wake up and just have confidence. But confidence does not come first. Action does. You act your way into belief, not the other way around. Discipline begins when motivation ends. Anyone can believe in themselves when things are going well, but discipline is the ability to keep believing when nothing seems to be working. It is getting up on the days when you do not want to, speaking strength into yourself when your mind is filled with doubt, and showing up when your emotions tell you to stop. This is not pretending everything is fine. It is choosing not to be ruled by how you feel. Feelings are temporary. Discipline lasts. Every time you act in faith, you strengthen the muscle of belief. It does not matter how small the act is. Maybe you wake up early to study, or you push yourself to finish a project, or you go for that walk you have been avoiding. Each time you do something difficult on purpose, you send a message to your mind. I can trust myself. That is the foundation of belief. Trust is not built through talk. It is built through repetition. The truth is, you cannot think your way into self-belief. You must behave your way into it. Every disciplined action, no matter how ordinary, rewires the brain to see yourself differently. When you keep the promises you make to yourself, your mind begins to believe your words. That is why inconsistency feels so painful. Each time you say you will do something and then you do not, you teach your mind that you cannot be trusted. And when you cannot trust yourself, belief becomes impossible. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you want to be. It is not built in a day, and it is not built in comfort. It is built in the moments when you are tired, when you are doubtful, when you are tempted to quit. These are the moments that define your transformation. If you can stay committed through discomfort, you are already stronger than most. The most disciplined people are not those who never struggle. They are the ones who keep showing up in spite of it. They understand that belief is not about waiting for inspiration. It is about creating habits that keep you moving forward even when inspiration disappears. You cannot always control your motivation, but you can always control your discipline. And if you stay disciplined long enough, belief becomes a natural consequence. The discipline of belief is not glamorous. It is quiet. It looks like effort that no one notices. It looks like persistence that no one praises. But these small, invisible acts become the foundation of something powerful. Over time, they create unshakable confidence, because you no longer rely on emotion to decide who you are. You rely on evidence. Every day that you choose effort over excuses, you build proof that you are capable. Belief is built in private and revealed in public. No one will see the early mornings or the quiet nights when you choose to stay consistent. They will only see the results later and call it talent or luck. But you will know the truth. It was discipline. It was faith practiced daily. It was the refusal to give up when no one was clapping. You do not need to feel ready to start. You just need to start. The discipline of belief begins with one choice: to show up. Every time you do, the voice of doubt grows quieter and the voice of faith grows louder. Keep going, even when no one notices. Because one day, everything you built in silence will speak for itself. Chapter 7, The Science of Self-Talk. The conversations you have with yourself shape every part of your reality. Most people speak to themselves more than they speak to anyone else, but they do it unconsciously. They do not realize that every sentence, every label, every quiet thought is a command to the brain. The mind listens. It does not argue. It simply obeys what it hears often enough. If you constantly tell yourself you're not good enough, your mind will find ways to prove it true. But if you learn to speak power, the same mind becomes your ally instead of your enemy. Self-talk is not just psychology. It is biology. The words you repeat create chemical reactions in the brain. Positive language releases dopamine and serotonin, the same chemicals that help you feel motivation and joy. Negative language triggers cortisol, the stress hormone that keeps you in survival mode. You are literally programming your emotional state with your words. This is not magic. It is how the human brain works. When you tell yourself you cannot do something, the brain does not challenge it. It believes you and stops looking for solutions. But when you say, I can figure this out, your brain starts scanning for ways to make it happen. Self-talk either closes doors or opens them. The key to belief lies in mastering the way you speak to yourself. Most people use their inner voice as a weapon. They repeat insults they heard from others, replay moments of failure, and predict disappointment before anything even happens. Over time, they become addicted to their own negativity. It feels normal to think poorly of themselves because that pattern has been practiced for years. But the same way you learn to talk down to yourself, you can learn to talk yourself up. You can retrain the voice in your head to become your strength instead of your weakness. The science is simple but profound. What you focus on expands. When you focus on your flaws, they grow in your awareness. When you focus on progress, it multiplies. The brain filters information through what is known as the reticular activating system, a network that decides what deserves attention. The more you tell yourself something, the more your brain looks for evidence to support it. Tell yourself you always fail, and you will start noticing only your failures. Tell yourself you're improving, and your brain will highlight your progress. The system works perfectly. It is only your programming that needs to change. Start by becoming aware of your inner language. Catch yourself in the act. The moment you think, "I am not good enough," pause. Do not argue with the thought. Replace it with one that serves your growth. Try, "I am learning," or "I am improving." These statements are both true and empowering. You do not need to lie to yourself to build confidence. You only need to focus on evidence that supports possibility instead of limitation. Self-talk also shapes your physical posture and energy. Notice how your body reacts when you say, "I can't." Your shoulders drop, your breathing tightens, your energy lowers. Now notice what happens when you say, "I can handle this." Your body expands. You breathe deeper. You feel stronger. This is not just mental, it is physiological alignment. The mind commands, and the body responds. If you want to force belief into your life, start with your words. Speak to yourself as you would to someone you love. You do not grow a child by shaming them. You grow them by guiding them. You are no different. The tone you use with yourself matters more than any advice you receive from others. Because your own voice is the one you hear the most, and it sets the direction for your life. Reprogramming your self-talk will take time. You will slip back into old patterns, and that is normal. But awareness is progress. Every time you catch yourself and choose new language, you are rewiring your brain for strength. You are proving to yourself that belief is not something you wait for. It is something you build, one sentence at a time. Your words are the code that shapes your mind. Guard them. Choose them carefully. Because when your self-talk becomes aligned with your vision, nothing in the world can convince you that you are not enough. Chapter 8. Small wins, massive shifts. Most people think transformation happens in a single moment. They wait for the big break, the perfect opportunity, or the sudden burst of motivation that will change everything overnight. But belief does not grow that way. It is not born from massive leaps. It's built from small wins, stacked one after another, until they reshape how you see yourself. The mind is built on evidence. It believes what it can prove. When you tell yourself you are capable, but never take action, your words have no weight. But when you start collecting small victories, your mind begins to listen. Each win becomes proof that you can do more than you thought. You start trusting yourself again, and that trust becomes the foundation for lasting confidence. Think about the last time you accomplished something, no matter how small. Maybe you finished a task you had been putting off. Maybe you said no when you used to say yes. Maybe you got out of bed on a hard morning and faced the day anyway. These moments might seem insignificant, but they are not. They are quiet revolutions. They are the moments when belief takes its first breath. The mistake most people make is underestimating progress they cannot see. They want fireworks, not embers. But it is the ember that becomes the fire. Every small act of discipline, every choice to push forward when it would be easier to quit, creates momentum. Momentum is invisible at first. You do not feel it happening. But over time it grows until it becomes unstoppable. You cannot build self-belief through perfection. You build it through repetition. Confidence is not born from doing extraordinary things once. It comes from doing ordinary things consistently. The more you show up for yourself, the louder your belief becomes. You begin to realize that success is not an event. It is a habit. Small wins create massive shifts because they reprogram your identity. You start to see yourself as someone who follows through, someone who can rely on their own word. That shift in identity changes everything. When you believe you can handle the small challenges, the bigger ones no longer feel impossible. The mountain looks climbable because you already proved you can take the first step. The human brain loves patterns. It seeks familiarity. If you have spent years identifying as someone who gives up easily, you will default to that behavior until you create new evidence. Every small win becomes a new data point, telling your brain, we can do this. Eventually, the old identity fades because the new one is being written in real time. You do not need to change everything at once. You only need to change one thing and commit to it. Start small, stay consistent, and let time amplify the results. The smallest habits often create the largest transformations because they are sustainable. It is easy to start something big, but it takes strength to maintain something small. When you feel discouraged, do not look at how far you still have to go. Look at how far you have already come. Every moment of resistance you have overcome counts. Every time you showed up when no one was watching counts. The progress may not be loud, but it is real. One day you will look back and realize that the small things you once ignored were the very things that built your strength. The late nights, the early mornings, the moments you almost gave up but did not. Those were not wasted. They were the foundation of everything you are becoming. Belief grows in silence. It grows through repetition, through small wins that no one claps for. Do not underestimate them. They are the proof your mind needs to believe again. Collect them, celebrate them, stack them until there is no room for doubt left inside you. Because small wins, when gathered with intention, create the biggest shifts of all. Chapter 9. The Art of Showing Up. Most people wait for the right moment to begin. They tell themselves they will start when they feel ready, when life is less stressful, when the conditions are perfect. But that moment never comes. There is no perfect time to start. There is only now. The art of showing up is the ability to take action in the face of uncertainty, to move even when your mind is filled with doubt, and to trust that progress begins with presence. You do not have to have everything figured out to begin. You just have to show up. The hardest part of any goal is not the work itself. It is the hesitation that comes before it. You stand at the edge of possibility, overthinking every step, imagining everything that could go wrong. But belief is born in motion, not in thought. The moment you take the first step, the fear begins to lose its power. Showing up is an act of courage. It means facing your flaws, your fears, and your failures with open eyes. It means being willing to look foolish, to make mistakes, to start small. Most people never discover their potential because they spend their whole lives waiting for permission to begin. You cannot wait for motivation to arrive. You must create it through action. Motivation follows movement, not the other way around. Think of every person you admire. The ones who built success, confidence, and purpose. None of them had certainty when they started. They had the same fear you have. The difference is, they showed up anyway. They understood that the only way to create momentum is to move. Even when you are scared, even when you doubt yourself, even when no one believes in you yet. Showing up is more than physical presence. It is mental commitment. It means bringing your full attention to the task in front of you. When you show up halfway, distracted and unsure, you are not giving yourself the chance to see what you are capable of. Every time you commit fully, even for a short moment, you train your mind to associate effort with progress. That connection builds confidence faster than any motivational quote ever could. Some days, showing up will look like conquering the world. Other days, it will look like just getting out of bed. Both count. Belief is not built through perfection. It is built through consistency. You do not need to win every day. You only need to refuse to quit. When you keep showing up, even in small ways, you send a powerful message to your subconscious mind. I am not done yet. That message, repeated often enough, becomes the foundation of unstoppable belief. You cannot predict where showing up will lead you. The path will change, the results will vary, but each time you show up, you learn something new about yourself. You learn that you are stronger than your excuses. You learn that discipline feels better than regret. You learn that belief is not given, it is earned. Do not underestimate the power of showing up when no one is watching. Those moments are sacred. That is where you build character. That is where you create habits that later become breakthroughs. Every time you show up in silence, you're building the version of yourself that the world will one day applaud. Belief is not something you force overnight. It grows quietly through repetition. Every time you show up, you water that belief. Every time you choose discipline over doubt, you prove to yourself that you can be trusted. That is what showing up really is. Trust in action. The art of showing up is the art of living fully. It is the decision to participate in your own life instead of waiting for it to happen to you. You do not need to be perfect to begin. You only need to be present. Show up once, then again and again. Keep showing up until it becomes who you are. Because the person who keeps showing up, even when it is hard, is the one who will eventually win. Chapter 10. You versus your excuses. Every person who ever accomplished something great faced a moment when their mind whispered 1,000 reasons to stop. The difference between those who grow and those who stay stuck is simple. One group listens to their excuses, the other learns to silence them. Excuses feel logical, even protective. They disguise themselves as truth, but they are lies designed to keep you comfortable. Your excuses will sound kind. They will say you are too tired, too busy, too inexperienced. They will tell you that you will try tomorrow, that you need more time, that it is not the right season. But tomorrow turns into next week turns into next year, and suddenly the life you wanted has slipped into memory. Excuses do not protect you. They steal your potential one decision at a time. Every time you make an excuse, you trade your future for temporary relief. You escape the discomfort of effort, but you also escape the satisfaction of progress. The mind loves to avoid pain, and effort feels painful, so it creates stories to justify inaction. I am not ready yet. I need to learn more first. I am waiting for the right opportunity. These sound reasonable, but they are poison disguised as logic. If you want to force belief into your life, you must learn to see excuses for what they are: fear in disguise, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of effort that might not pay off right away. The moment you expose your excuses, they lose power. When you tell the truth about why you are not acting, you can finally change it. Honesty is the first weapon against self-sabotage. Start listening to your internal dialogue. Every time you hear an excuse, challenge it. Ask yourself, is this true or is this comfortable? The answer will often sting. That sting is where growth begins. The people who succeed are not the ones without doubt. They are the ones who act in spite of it. They do not let the voice of comfort win the argument. Excuses thrive in confusion. When your vision is unclear, your mind fills the gap with reasons not to start. That is why clarity is your shield. Write down what you want. Be specific. When you know what you are aiming for, it becomes harder to justify avoiding it. Excuses lose their grip when faced with a clear direction. Belief and excuses cannot live in the same space. One must destroy the other. If you constantly feed your excuses, belief will starve. But if you feed your belief through action, your excuses will die quietly. Every step you take, no matter how small, weakens the power of hesitation. Progress is the loudest answer to doubt. You will never eliminate excuses completely, but you can train yourself to act faster than they can speak. The key is momentum. The moment you feel resistance, take one small action. Do not negotiate with your mind. Do not wait for courage to arrive. Move first. Action breeds clarity, and clarity kills excuses. Remember that no one is coming to push you forward. You must push yourself. The discipline to act without validation is what separates dreamers from doers. The world does not reward intention, it rewards execution. Excuses will keep you safe, but safety is not what you were born for. You were made to grow, to build, to create. When you look back on your life, you will not regret the times you tried and failed. You will regret the moments you let excuses win. Every excuse is a lost opportunity disguised as protection. Every time you choose belief over comfort, you reclaim your power. Your mind will always try to negotiate with you. It will promise comfort if you stay still. Do not listen. Comfort is the cage that kills potential. Choose progress over pity. Choose effort over excuses. Because the truth is, you are not fighting the world. You are fighting the story you tell yourself about why you cannot win. Change that story and everything changes with it. Chapter 11. The Power of Momentum. Momentum is the quiet force that turns effort into progress and belief into reality. It does not roar or announce itself. It begins as a whisper, a small shift that grows stronger with every step you take. The hardest part is always the beginning, because starting requires faith. You have no proof that your actions will work, no guarantee that you will succeed. Yet once you move, even slightly, you begin to build power that can carry you further than motivation ever could. The truth about momentum is simple. It does not come from grand gestures or massive breakthroughs. It comes from consistency. It comes from showing up again and again until movement becomes your natural state. When you do something often enough, your mind starts to expect it, your body begins to adapt, and your belief starts to grow. That repetition creates rhythm, and rhythm becomes strength. Momentum does not care how fast you move. It only cares that you do not stop. Many people quit right before progress begins to show. They assume nothing is changing because they cannot see it yet. But momentum builds silently. It is like the roots of a tree growing beneath the surface before anything appears above the ground. When you stay consistent, the invisible work you are doing begins to compound until one day the results become undeniable. You build belief not through sudden inspiration, but through steady motion. The more you move, the more your confidence grows. You begin to trust yourself, not because of what you say, but because of what you repeatedly do. Self-trust is the soil where belief grows, and every act of consistency waters it. The opposite of belief is not doubt, it is hesitation. The longer you hesitate, the harder it becomes to move again. The beauty of momentum is that it does not require perfection. You do not have to do everything right to move forward. You only need to keep going. Small steps are still steps. Some days progress may be slow, and you will feel like nothing is working. But slow progress is infinitely better than standing still. You can fix mistakes, but you cannot fix inaction. Every time you act in alignment with your goals, you reinforce the identity of someone who follows through. That identity becomes powerful. You stop waiting for external motivation because your actions themselves become the motivation. You start to crave the feeling of movement, of progress, of growth. The more you build momentum, the less you rely on discipline to start, because momentum begins to carry you. Momentum also protects you from overthinking. When you are still, your mind fills with fear, doubt, and analysis. But when you move, you have less space for fear to live. Action drowns out anxiety. You stop asking what if and start asking what's next. That shift changes everything. You no longer look for reasons to act. You simply act. Even when setbacks come, as they always do, momentum allows you to recover faster. You have already trained yourself to move forward no matter what. You may slow down, but you do not stop. You may stumble, but you keep going. That consistency is what separates those who rise from those who remain. The power of momentum is not just in what it helps you achieve, but in who it helps you become. It turns doubt into discipline, hesitation into habit, and effort into evidence. It teaches you that belief is not something you wait for. It is something you earn every day through action. Keep moving, even when it feels small. Keep showing up, even when it feels pointless. Every time you act, you are building a force that will soon carry you forward with ease. Momentum is not built overnight, but once it is built, it will push you through every obstacle that once stopped you. And when you reach that point, belief will no longer feel forced. It will feel natural, because you have proven to yourself that you are unstoppable. Chapter 12. Building an unbreakable mindset. An unbreakable mindset is not something you are born with. It is something you build, one challenge at a time. It is not the absence of pain or fear, but the ability to keep moving through them without losing your center. The mind becomes unbreakable, not by avoiding pressure, but by learning to thrive under it. Every storm you face becomes the gym where your strength is trained. The truth is, life will test you. It will push you to your limits, take away your comfort, and confront you with moments that feel unfair. Most people see those moments as punishment. Those who build unshakable belief see them as opportunities. Every difficulty is a chance to prove to yourself that you cannot be broken. You bend, you adapt, but you do not collapse. That is the essence of resilience. Resilience is not pretending that everything is fine. It is admitting that things are hard, but refusing to let that stop you. It is the quiet confidence that says, I have been here before, and I know I will rise again. When you build that kind of faith in yourself, fear loses its grip. You stop being afraid of what could happen because you already trust your ability to handle it. An unbreakable mindset is built through perspective. The way you interpret events determines their power over you. When something goes wrong, you can label it as failure or as feedback. You can say, this is the end, or you can say, this is the lesson. The event itself does not define you. The meaning you attach to it does. That meaning shapes your emotional state, your actions, and ultimately your reality. Every time life knocks you down, you are given a choice. You can see it as defeat, or you can see it as data. Data tells you what to adjust, what to improve, and what to let go of. If you treat setbacks as information, they cannot break you. They become tools for your growth. You are never starting over completely. You are starting again with experience. To build an unbreakable mindset, you must also master your inner environment. The outer world will always be unpredictable. You cannot control what people say, what happens next, or how things unfold. You can control your focus, your reactions, and your standards. Strength begins in the mind long before it shows in action. When your internal world is calm, chaos cannot shake you. Mental strength grows when you stop seeking the easy way. Comfort breeds weakness. Discipline builds fortitude. Every time you choose discomfort on purpose, whether that means waking up early, pushing through fear, or doing something you do not want to do, you are training your mind to obey your vision instead of your emotions. Over time, that training becomes unshakable. You must also protect what you allow into your mind. The conversations you entertain, the media you consume, and the people you spend time with all shape your mental landscape. If you constantly surround yourself with negativity, doubt will grow. If you surround yourself with purpose and perspective, belief will flourish. Guard your thoughts as if they were the foundation of your future, because they are. The final piece of an unbreakable mindset is self-trust. When you trust yourself completely, nothing outside of you can destroy your peace. You stop chasing validation because you already know your worth. You stop fearing loss because you believe in your ability to rebuild. You stop running from failure because you see it as fuel. That kind of inner stability is unshakable. The mind becomes unbreakable through repetition. You do not become strong once and stay that way forever. You reinforce it daily through habits, reflection, and discipline. Each time you rise after falling, you are proving your strength. Each time you choose growth over comfort, you are building armor from within. An unbreakable mindset is not about being fearless. It is about being unafraid to face fear. It is not about being invincible. It is about being unstoppable. You may feel pain, but you do not give up. You may fall, but you do not stay down. That is the kind of belief that cannot be destroyed, because it is built from within. Chapter 13. Turning Pain into Power. Pain is the most honest teacher you will ever meet. It does not lie. It does not flatter. It does not care about your excuses. It shows you exactly where you stand and what still needs to be healed, strengthened, or understood. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid pain, but what they do not realize is that every great transformation begins with it. Pain is the doorway to power if you know how to use it. When you resist pain, you suffer twice. First from the experience itself, and then from your attempt to fight it. But when you face pain directly, you begin to see it differently. You realize that pain is not your enemy. It is your signal. It tells you where growth is waiting. It reveals what parts of you are still fragile. The purpose of pain is not to destroy you, but to introduce you to your strength. Every painful moment in your life has left behind a choice. You can allow it to define you, or you can use it to refine you. One path leads to bitterness, the other to power. The difference lies in how you interpret what happened. Pain will either close your heart or open it wider. It will either make you fearful or make you fierce. The decision is yours every single time. Powerful people are not those who have lived easy lives. They are the ones who have walked through fire and learned how to use the heat. They stopped asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and started asking, "What can I learn from this?" That single shift in question changes everything. It turns pain from punishment into purpose. Pain shows you the truth about yourself. It reveals who you are when nothing is working, when no one is cheering, when the outcome is uncertain. It is in those moments that character is built. Anyone can be confident when life feels good. True confidence comes from surviving the moments that tried to break you. The secret to turning pain into power is presence. You must allow yourself to feel it fully, without distraction or denial. Numbness is not healing. Avoidance is not strength. Only by feeling pain completely can you release it completely. When you allow yourself to face it head-on, you strip it of its control over you. What you face, you free. You also must learn to translate your pain into fuel. Every time you hurt, you are being handed energy. That energy can destroy you or drive you, depending on how you channel it. The most successful people in the world did not rise because life was easy. They rose because they refused to waste their suffering. They took their pain and turned it into art, business, discipline, or purpose. You can do the same. Think about the last time you felt deep disappointment or heartbreak. What if that pain was not there to punish you, but to prepare you? What if the rejection was simply redirection? Sometimes life removes what is not meant for you so that you can find what truly is. Pain clears space for transformation. It burns away illusion and leaves behind truth. When you change your relationship with pain, you change your life. You begin to welcome challenges instead of fearing them, because you know every struggle carries a gift. You stop asking for things to get easier and start asking to get stronger. And strength built through pain cannot be taken away. It becomes part of who you are. You cannot control when pain comes, but you can control what you do with it. You can let it harden you or let it awaken you. You can choose to become a victim of it or a student of it. Choose the latter, and your pain becomes your greatest teacher. Turning pain into power is not a single moment. It is a mindset. It is the daily choice to use everything that has hurt you as raw material for growth. When you finally decide to stop running from your pain, you will realize it has been pointing you toward your purpose all along. Chapter 14. The Power of Identity. Who you believe you are determines everything you do. Every decision, every habit, every dream you chase or abandon is shaped by your identity. You can change your actions for a while, but if your identity stays the same, you will always return to your old patterns. True transformation begins when you stop trying to act differently and start believing you are different. Most people try to build confidence from the outside in. They chase results, hoping that success will change how they see themselves. But belief works in reverse. You must first decide who you are before the evidence appears. Identity is not a reflection of what you have achieved. It is a declaration of who you are becoming. When you truly believe something about yourself, your behavior naturally begins to match that belief. Your identity acts like a compass. It quietly guides every decision you make. If you see yourself as someone who always fails, you will subconsciously make choices that confirm that belief. If you see yourself as someone who grows, learns, and adapts, you will find ways to rise no matter what happens. The world mirrors how you see yourself. Change your self-image, and you change your world. The most powerful identities are intentional. You choose them on purpose. You decide the kind of person you want to be and start living as if you already are that person. That is not pretending. It is aligning. The mind does not know the difference between imagination and reality. When you consistently act in alignment with the identity you desire, your brain rewires itself to match that image. Think about how many times you have said things like, "That is just the way I am," or "I have always been this kind of person." Those statements are not facts, they are affirmations. Every time you repeat them, you reinforce them. If you want to build a stronger belief system, you must rewrite your language. Start saying, "I am learning to," or "I am becoming the kind of person who." These small shifts in language change the direction of your life. Identity is built through evidence. Each time you follow through on a promise, you cast a vote for the kind of person you want to become. Each time you keep your word, even in small things, you strengthen your self-image. Over time, those votes accumulate until belief becomes natural. You no longer have to force yourself to believe. You have proven it through action. One of the most powerful exercises for shaping your identity is visualization. Close your eyes and imagine the person you want to become. How do they speak? How do they move? How do they handle setbacks? Then, begin to show up in your life as that version of yourself, even in small ways. You are not waiting for the transformation to happen. You are becoming it. But building a new identity also requires letting go of the old one. The version of you that feels stuck, doubtful, or unworthy has served its purpose. It protected you. It helped you survive. But now it is time to release it. You cannot build a new life while still clinging to an old definition of who you are. You must say goodbye to the person you were, not with resentment, but with gratitude. They brought you here. Now it is your job to move forward. The power of identity lies in its ability to anchor you. When your sense of self is strong, you do not crumble under failure or rejection. You understand that setbacks do not change who you are. They only test your commitment to becoming your highest self. That understanding gives you emotional stability. It keeps you focused when everything else feels uncertain. Your identity is the foundation of belief. When you know who you are, no one can convince you otherwise. You stop seeking validation because you are already living in alignment with your truth. You stop comparing yourself because your identity is rooted in purpose, not performance. Belief begins with this question: who am I becoming? Ask it often, answer it honestly, then act on it every day, because once your identity shifts, everything else follows. Chapter 15. The Psychology of Persistence. Persistence is not just about trying again. It is about how you think while you try again. Most people misunderstand persistence. They imagine it as blind stubbornness, the refusal to quit no matter what. But true persistence is intelligent. It is not about banging your head against the same wall forever. It's about learning, adapting, and staying committed to the destination even when the path changes. The psychology of persistence begins with understanding that failure is not the opposite of success. It is the path to it. Every time you fail, you are collecting information about what does not work. The most persistent people in history were not the ones who never fell. They were the ones who learned something every time they did. Thomas Edison once said he did not fail 10,000 times while creating the light bulb. He simply discovered 10,000 ways that did not work. That mindset is what makes persistence powerful. When you persist, you develop emotional endurance. You train your mind to stay calm under pressure. You teach yourself that obstacles are not stop signs, but checkpoints. Most people quit, not because they are incapable, but because they interpret struggle as a sign that it is not meant to be. Persistence is the opposite of that belief. It says, if it is hard, it means it is worth it. The key to persistence is emotional regulation. Your emotions can either fuel your progress or drain it. When frustration takes over, logic disappears. The people who master persistence are not emotionless. They simply know how to manage their emotional energy. They take a step back when overwhelmed, breathe, recalibrate, and then keep going. They understand that staying consistent requires clarity, not chaos. Another aspect of persistence is self-compassion. When you are hard on yourself, persistence becomes punishment. You start to associate effort with pain, and eventually you give up. But when you are kind to yourself, persistence becomes purpose. You can fail without losing faith. You can struggle without losing your sense of worth. Persistence grows in the soil of patience. To be persistent, you must believe that time is your ally, not your enemy. You cannot rush mastery. Everything great takes longer than you want it to. The impatient give up too soon. The persistent understand that growth compounds quietly. You do not see progress every day, but it is happening beneath the surface. Like the roots of a tree, your persistence strengthens you long before results appear. There will be days when your mind will whisper that nothing is working. It will tempt you to stop, to rest permanently instead of temporarily. That is when persistence matters most. The days you feel least motivated are the days your persistence is being tested. The strength of your commitment is not measured when things are easy. It is measured when continuing feels pointless. To maintain persistence, you need a vision bigger than your current discomfort. You must know why you started, and that reason must be powerful enough to pull you through fatigue, failure, and fear. Motivation fades, but purpose sustains. When you remember the deeper reason behind your effort, persistence becomes natural. You also need to reframe your definition of success. Success is not a single event. It is the accumulation of tiny victories that happen because you refuse to give up. The people who seem unstoppable are not always more talented or intelligent. They simply lasted longer. They stayed in the game long enough to outlast doubt. Persistence is a habit of belief. It says, I do not know how long it will take, but I know I will get there. It removes the question of if and replaces it with when. That quiet certainty is what transforms effort into results. When you trust the process, time becomes your partner. In the end, persistence is not about never falling. It is about rising every time with a little more wisdom, a little more strength, and a little more belief. The person who keeps going even when no one is watching becomes unstoppable, not because they are fearless, but because they understand that persistence is faith in motion. Chapter 16. The Mirror of Self-Discipline. Self-discipline is not punishment, it is power. It is the art of choosing your long-term growth over your short-term comfort. It is the ability to look in the mirror and say, I will not be ruled by impulse. I will be guided by purpose. The truth is, self-discipline is the mirror that reflects who you truly are when no one is watching. It shows you the gap between what you say you want and what you are actually willing to do to get it. Discipline is not about being perfect. It is about being consistent. It is not about never failing. It is about refusing to let failure define you. The disciplined person is not someone who never feels lazy or distracted. They simply refuse to let those feelings make their decisions for them. They act according to their values, not their moods. That is what makes discipline the ultimate form of self-respect. When you practice discipline, you are teaching your mind to obey your vision instead of your emotions. The undisciplined person waits to feel motivated. The disciplined person acts first and lets motivation catch up later. This small difference separates dreamers from doers. It is the reason some people only talk about what they will do, while others quietly build what they said they would. Self-discipline begins with small promises. You tell yourself you will do something, and then you follow through. Every time you keep your word, you strengthen your self-trust. Every time you break your word, you weaken it. Discipline is the bridge between intention and reality. Without it, even the strongest desire fades into frustration. With it, even the smallest effort compounds into progress. Discipline also creates freedom. That might sound like a contradiction, but it is the truth. The person who cannot control themselves is a slave to their emotions, cravings, and fears. The person who has discipline controls their destiny. Freedom is not the absence of rules. It is the ability to live according to your own standards. You cannot feel truly free if you are constantly breaking your own promises. Every disciplined act builds your identity. When you choose to wake up early, when you work when it is inconvenient, when you focus when distraction calls your name, you are sending a message to yourself. I am someone who follows through. I am someone who can be trusted. Over time, those moments create an unshakable sense of confidence. You stop waiting for external validation because your self-image becomes grounded in proof. Discipline also teaches emotional control. When you commit to a goal, the world will test you. There will be days when nothing goes right, when you feel misunderstood, when your effort seems invisible. In those moments, discipline keeps you anchored. It reminds you that your commitment is not conditional on how you feel today. The disciplined mind knows that emotions are temporary, but results are permanent. But there is another side to discipline that most people overlook: compassion. Discipline without kindness becomes cruelty. You must learn to push yourself without breaking yourself. Progress comes from pressure, but it also comes from patience. There will be times you fall short, when your energy fades or life interrupts your rhythm. In those moments, forgiveness becomes part of discipline. You acknowledge the slip, learn from it, and return stronger. That balance keeps you moving forward without burning out. True discipline is not about control, it is about alignment. It is about aligning your actions with your higher self, your words with your intentions, and your effort with your vision. It is about living in harmony with who you say you want to be. When your inner and outer worlds match, peace follows. Self-discipline is not glamorous. It does not get applause. It happens in quiet rooms, in the early mornings, in the late nights, in the moments when no one is watching. It is built in the small, ordinary decisions that most people ignore. But over time, those small moments build an extraordinary life. When you look in the mirror, discipline asks you a simple question: are you becoming the person you promised yourself you would be? The answer is not found in words, but in your habits, your effort, and your consistency. Because at the end of the day, belief without discipline is fantasy. But belief with discipline becomes destiny. Chapter 17. The inner voice of confidence. Confidence is not the loudest voice in the room. It is the calmest one inside your mind. It is the quiet knowing that you can handle whatever comes next. Real confidence has nothing to do with ego or arrogance. It comes from the deep trust that you can rely on yourself even when the world doubts you. The inner voice of confidence is not born from constant success. It grows from surviving your own doubt. It develops when you walk through fear instead of waiting for it to disappear. Every time you face uncertainty and keep going, your inner voice learns to whisper, "I can do this." Over time, that whisper becomes louder than the noise of insecurity. But for most people, the voice inside their head is not a friend. It is a critic. It repeats old fears, old failures, and old lies learned from people who did not understand their worth. You cannot build confidence if the conversation inside your mind is constantly tearing you down. Your thoughts become your reality. So if your inner dialogue is full of doubt, you will move like someone who doubts. If it is filled with belief, you will act like someone who believes. To strengthen your inner voice, you must start paying attention to how you talk to yourself. The words you use matter. When you tell yourself that you are stupid, lazy, or unworthy, your mind listens. It begins to look for proof to confirm that belief. But when you say, "I'm learning, I'm improving, I'm becoming stronger," your mind also listens. It starts to find evidence that supports that truth instead. The voice you feed becomes the voice that leads. Confidence begins with language. Replace self-criticism with self-coaching. When you make a mistake, do not say, "I always mess this up." Say, "Next time, I will handle it better." That small shift in tone changes the emotional energy behind your thoughts. You stop fighting yourself and start guiding yourself. That is what confident people do. They lead their own minds before they lead anything else. You must also learn to challenge your thoughts. Not every thought that enters your mind deserves to be believed. Just because you think something does not mean it is true. Doubt will always whisper. Fear will always visit. The question is whether you let those thoughts stay. Confidence is not the absence of negative thoughts. It is the ability to recognize them and choose not to obey them. The inner voice of confidence is built through evidence. Every time you do something you said you would do, you build trust with yourself. Each promise kept becomes a brick in the foundation of belief. Over time, that foundation becomes unshakable. You do not need anyone else to tell you that you can do it. You already know because you have proven it. Silence is also a teacher. When you learn to sit quietly with yourself, you begin to hear the difference between fear and intuition. Fear screams, intuition speaks softly. The more you practice presence, the clearer that inner guidance becomes. Confidence does not always shout. Sometimes it simply says, "I know what I need to do," and moves without explanation. You will have days when your confidence feels distant, when that voice inside feels weak or silent. That is normal. Even the strongest minds have quiet moments. In those times, remember that confidence is a muscle. It grows through use. The more you act in faith, the stronger it becomes. Waiting to feel confident before taking action is a trap. Action is what creates confidence. Real confidence is not about never doubting yourself. It is about not letting doubt decide for you. It is the courage to move even when your inner voice trembles. Over time, as you keep showing up, that trembling voice steadies. It grows firm, grounded, unshakable. It becomes your ally instead of your enemy. When you master the inner voice of confidence, you stop chasing approval. You stop needing permission. You stop comparing yourself to others because you finally understand that your path is your own. The world becomes quieter and your purpose becomes louder. Confidence is not found. It is built. It is built in the way you speak to yourself, the way you honor your word, and the way you keep showing up despite fear. The more you listen to the right voice within you, the more unstoppable you become. Chapter 18. The Habit of Belief. Belief is not a feeling that appears out of nowhere. It is a habit that must be built, repeated, and reinforced every single day. People wait for belief to come before they act, but that is not how it works. Action creates belief. Every time you take a small step forward, no matter how uncertain, you are telling your mind, I can do this. Over time, that message becomes your reality. Belief begins in the smallest choices. When you wake up early, when you finish what you start, when you show up even when you do not feel ready, you are proving to yourself that you are dependable. That reliability becomes the foundation of self-trust, and self-trust is the soil where belief grows. The reason most people struggle to believe in themselves is not because they lack talent or opportunity. It is because they have repeatedly broken promises to themselves. Belief cannot exist where trust is missing. Habits shape identity. What you do repeatedly becomes who you think you are. If you keep taking action even when you doubt yourself, your identity slowly shifts from someone who hesitates to someone who follows through. Belief is not something you earn once and keep forever. It must be maintained like a muscle. Without consistent reinforcement, doubt will always return. To turn belief into a habit, you must learn the art of self-direction. That means choosing your actions intentionally instead of reacting emotionally. You must decide what matters and align your behavior with that decision. Every time you act in alignment with your goals, you strengthen your inner belief system. You show yourself that you are capable of controlling your path, not just surviving it. Belief also grows through reflection. Most people move through life without acknowledging their progress. They see how far they still have to go, but forget how far they have already come. Take a moment each day to look back at what you have accomplished, even if it feels small. The human mind naturally remembers failures more vividly than wins, which is why you must consciously remind yourself of your victories. Each reflection reinforces the message that you are growing. The habit of belief also depends on what you focus on. Your mind is a garden, and your thoughts are seeds. If you constantly plant thoughts of doubt and fear, you will harvest hesitation. But if you plant thoughts of persistence and possibility, you will harvest strength. You cannot stop negative thoughts from appearing, but you can choose which ones to water. Belief grows when attention shifts from what could go wrong to what could go right. You must also learn patience with your own evolution. Growth takes time, and belief deepens slowly. You cannot rush the process. Belief that is forced too quickly often collapses when tested. The strongest kind of belief is forged in experience. It comes from failing, learning, and returning again with wisdom. Each time you recover from a setback, belief becomes more stable, more grounded, more real. Building belief as a habit also requires consistency in your environment. The people you surround yourself with, the content you consume, and the stories you tell yourself all shape your internal narrative. If you spend time with those who see limitations everywhere, your belief will shrink. If you surround yourself with people who strive, grow, and uplift, your belief will expand. You become like the atmosphere you breathe. Choose one that strengthens you. When belief becomes habitual, it stops being something you have to remind yourself of. It becomes automatic. You no longer wake up wondering whether you can achieve something. You simply begin. That shift is powerful. It frees your energy from self-doubt and directs it toward progress. The world around you begins to change because you have changed the world within you. The habit of belief is a lifelong practice. It requires patience, repetition, and self-awareness. Some days you will feel strong. Other days you will question everything. That is normal. What matters is not perfection, but persistence. Belief is built through movement, not motivation. As long as you keep moving forward, belief will always find its way back to you. When belief becomes part of your daily rhythm, life transforms. The same challenges remain, but you see them differently. You stop asking, "Can I do this?" and start asking, "How can I make this work?" That subtle change in language marks the birth of true self-belief. Belief is not magic, it is momentum. It grows stronger each time you act in alignment with who you want to become. Make it a habit, and you will never have to force yourself to believe again. Chapter 19. The Rebirth of Faith in Yourself. There comes a moment in every person's life when they realize they have been living beneath their potential. A quiet moment when the noise fades, and they can finally hear the truth within them, the truth that says, you were made for more. That realization can be both painful and liberating. Painful because you see how much time fear has stolen. Liberating because you finally see that you still have the power to begin again. That is the rebirth of faith in yourself. Faith is not just belief. It is deeper than confidence. Confidence is built through proof. Faith exists even when there is none. Faith is what keeps you standing when there is no visible reason to stand. It is the light you hold when everything around you feels dark. And the most powerful form of faith is self-faith, the unshakable conviction that no matter what happens, you can rise again. Most people lose faith in themselves not because they fail, but because they forget. They forget their past victories, their resilience, their ability to overcome. Life has a way of burying our strength under layers of disappointment and doubt. Every setback whispers that we are not enough, and over time, those whispers become beliefs. But the truth never disappears. It simply waits to be remembered. Rebirth begins when you remember who you are beneath the fear. Rebuilding faith in yourself starts with forgiveness. You cannot move forward while carrying the weight of regret. Forgive yourself for the mistakes, the lost time, the chances you did not take. Every misstep was part of your education. You were not failing. You were learning. The person you are today needed those lessons to grow. Forgiveness is how you clear the soil for new belief to grow. Next, you must reclaim your story. You are not the sum of your failures. You are the author of your comeback. Rewrite the narrative in your mind. Instead of saying, I always mess things up, say, I am learning how to do better. Instead of thinking, I wasted so much time, say, I was preparing for this moment. The way you tell your story shapes how you experience it. Change the story, and you change the future. Faith also requires trust in the unseen. You will not always have proof that things are working out. Progress is often invisible before it becomes undeniable. You must learn to keep walking even when you cannot see the full path. Faith is not blind. It simply sees beyond what the eyes can. It trusts the process even when the outcome is uncertain. The rebirth of self-faith also comes from action. You cannot think your way into belief. You must live your way into it. Every time you take a step, no matter how small, you prove to yourself that you are still moving, still growing, still capable. Movement is medicine for the doubting mind. Each act of courage, each promise kept, rebuilds the bridge between who you were and who you are becoming. You will have moments of doubt again, even after rebuilding your faith. That is natural. But the difference now is that you know how to return. You have learned the path back to yourself. You know that belief is not a one-time event. It is a daily practice. Some days your faith will roar, other days it will whisper. What matters is that you never stop listening. To have faith in yourself is to believe that your story is not finished. It is to trust that even your pain has purpose. Every fall taught you how to rise. Every heartbreak taught you how to heal. Every rejection redirected you towards something greater. When you understand that, faith becomes unshakable. You no longer see challenges as punishment but as preparation. The rebirth of faith is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering who you were before fear took over. The part of you that was brave, curious, and full of hope is still there. You only need to let it breathe again. Faith is not something you find. It is something you uncover. So stand tall, breathe deeply. Look at yourself and see the proof of your resilience. You have survived everything that was meant to destroy you. You have already proven your strength. Now it is time to believe in it again. Chapter 20. Becoming your own proof. You have spent your life looking for evidence that you are enough. You have searched for it in achievements, in people's approval, in moments of success that fade as quickly as they arrive. But true belief does not come from what others say or what you achieve. It comes from what you prove to yourself. The final step in building unshakable belief is becoming your own proof. Belief without evidence feels impossible at first. The human mind craves validation. It wants something tangible to hold on to before it dares to trust. But life does not work that way. You will not always see the results before you act. Sometimes you must act first and let the results follow. Becoming your own proof means you stop waiting for confirmation from the outside world. You begin to generate it from within. Every action you take is a vote for the person you are becoming. Each time you choose discipline over distraction, courage over comfort, growth over fear, you are proving something to yourself. You are creating evidence that you are capable, resilient, and powerful. That evidence compounds quietly, like drops filling a bucket, until one day you realize you no longer need to convince yourself. You have already become the proof. The process begins with self-awareness. You must be honest about what you have already overcome. Think about the things you once believed you could never do, the situations that felt impossible until you faced them and survived. The pain that once broke you but now fuels you. That is proof. The problem is, most people overlook their own victories. They forget the countless moments where they showed strength simply because they were too focused on what still lies ahead. Take time to acknowledge your progress. Write it down. Speak it aloud. Reflect on it. You have already done more than your mind gives you credit for. Confidence grows when you remember your wins. When you forget them, doubt creeps back in. Becoming your own proof requires constant remembrance. You must remind yourself of who you are, especially when the world tries to make you forget. Another key to becoming your own proof is honoring your word. Every time you tell yourself you will do something and follow through, your brain records that as evidence of integrity. Every time you break your word, it records the opposite. This is why small promises matter so much. When you say you will wake up early, work out, or stay focused, and you do, it reinforces your belief that you can trust yourself. Self-belief is built on self-trust. To be your own proof also means to face fear willingly. Fear will always exist. It never truly goes away. But when you move despite fear, you teach yourself that you are stronger than it. That lesson stays with you. Every time you act in courage, your mind learns that you are capable of handling discomfort, uncertainty, and even failure. This repetition trains belief into your nervous system. Becoming your own proof also requires detachment from comparison. As long as you measure your worth by someone else's achievements, you will always come up short. Your journey is not meant to look like anyone else's. The only person you need to outperform is the version of yourself from yesterday. Growth is personal, not competitive. The moment you stop comparing, your confidence multiplies. There will still be days when belief feels far away, days when nothing seems to work, when you question whether all the effort is worth it. Those moments are sacred because that is when you have the chance to rely on your inner evidence. You remind yourself, I have been here before and I made it through. I can do it again. That is how you turn resilience into identity. Becoming your own proof is not about perfection. It is about persistence. It is about showing up for yourself when it would be easier to quit. It is about trusting your growth even when no one notices. Over time, that commitment becomes your foundation. You will no longer need motivation, validation, or permission. You will move from a place of certainty, knowing that your life is the proof of what you believe. You do not need to wait for the world to see your worth. You only need to see it first. Once you do, the world will follow, because people believe in those who believe in themselves. and nothing is more magnetic than a person who has become their own proof. Epilogue: the beginning within. The journey to believe in yourself is not about becoming someone else. It is about coming home to who you have always been. Beneath the fear, the doubt, and the noise, there has always been a version of you that knew what you were capable of. You do not need to find that version. You only need to remember it. Belief is not a destination. It is a daily decision. Every morning you wake up, you are given the chance to choose faith over fear, purpose over hesitation, action over comfort. Each choice adds strength to your story. Each day you decide to move forward, you become the proof that transformation is real. So keep going. Trust yourself even when no one else does. The life you want is not waiting for permission. It is waiting for you to believe.